with the fiscal year 2018-19 resource management plan. I see Beverly Anderson up there ready to go. And Bev, we welcome you. And that's for me, excuse me. Go right ahead. Oh, this is someone else.
Mayor Sessoms, Vice Mayor Jones, City Manager Hanson, City Council members. On behalf of the School Board of the City of Virginia Beach, it is my privilege to present for your consideration the School Division's fiscal year 2018-2019 budget. Throughout your review of this plan, you will see that the School Board has taken strategic and deliberate steps to continue to position Virginia Beach City Public Schools as a leader in innovative teaching and learning and a sought-after school division in which staff members may both work and flourish. To begin, I want to show you and our community where, in general terms, the money in our operating budget is spent. Approximately 85% is made up of personnel costs, and a large part of the remaining funds is spent to keep the lights on and the buildings open. So now, let's look at some of the specifics. In this $770 million spending plan, the School Board has included funding for the next phase of the planned expansion of the VBCPS full-day kindergarten program, which will mean that 35 of our division's 53 elementary schools with kindergarten programs will now offer full-day instruction. This list shows the schools which will begin full-day kindergarten in September. We've allocated an additional 28 full-time equivalent instructional positions, which will help to reduce the class size at the elementary, middle, and high school levels, as well as reduce the number of teachers in the division who are teaching more than 150 students. There are also 12 high school counselor positions, one per high school, which will better support our students as they make post-graduation academic and career plans. $795,000 is earmarked to help address the costs associated with special education mandates. And speaking of special education, there are 2 special education buses included in the planned 40 bus replacements for next year. While it does not meet our goal of replacing 50 buses each year, it is a step in the right direction. We are continuing the expansion of our digital technology initiative to help narrow the digital divide in our city. We anticipate that next school year we will have a true 1-to-1 device ratio. We've also identified additional staffing for technology support technicians and instructional technology specialists in order to support teachers and students in the classroom while they are using this technology. As far as employee compensation is concerned, there is a 2% salary adjustment, which includes a 1.5% cost of living salary adjustment for all employees and a 0.5% step increase for eligible employees, which will not exceed the top of the scale. This is designed to reduce compression on this pay scale, especially for teachers in those first few years. For example, currently, a teacher with 5 years of experience is making less than $1,000 more than a teacher with no experience. Also in this budget, you will see a moderate 1% increase in employee health care premiums, along with a 1% increase to the employer costs for health care. I'm happy to say that this budget decreases the school division's reliance on reversion funds to balance the budget. Last year, the division used more than $8.8 million. This year, we are using roughly $6.8 million. Also, for the first time in years, we are able to include a $500,000 pay-go contribution to the capital improvement program, which will allow the school board additional flexibility in addressing building needs. You will also note that we are able to increase funds slightly by once again accessing available debt capacity and using performance contracting to address energy improvements across our schools. You've seen these capital improvement projects on the list here for some time. Construction is continuing for John B. Dye's school modernization. We are on target for a 2019 completion there. The school replacement at Thorogood remains on schedule to start this summer. Demolition of the old Princess Anne Middle School is complete, and this project remains on schedule to also start this summer. Some of the other items from the CIP are listed here. You will see that the Princess Anne High School replacement project is partially funded with the opening date still to be determined. As a reminder, the way it stands now, some of our buildings will be approaching 140 years old before they are modernized or replaced. But as we all know, it's not simply brick and mortar that makes a school. It's the students and staff engaged in meaningful teaching and learning who are the heart of a school. We are proud of all that is being accomplished in classrooms and schools across Virginia Beach. This year, all of our schools earned full accreditation from the state of Virginia for the first time since 2010. We also have been nationally recognized as one of the best digital school districts in the nation by the Center for Digital Education. And we have been recognized as an innovator in workforce development, leading the state of Virginia with the number of career and industry certifications earned by our students. This level of achievement doesn't happen overnight, and it certainly doesn't happen in a vacuum. We are fortunate in VBCPS to have the ongoing support from both our school communities as well as City Council. Your financial investment in our schools has paid dividends in the lives of this city's children, the success of this division, and the continued vitality of our city. We are appreciative for the long-standing and collaborative relationship that we share as government bodies. And we look forward to continuing that work in the next year to ensure that every child has the resources and tools to be successful every day. Dr. Spence and Mr. Hanziker are here to help answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Beverly. Appreciate it. Got a question, Jim Wood, please?
Thanks. Beverly, I didn't fully read the superintendent's estimate of needs, so maybe this answer's in there, but school safety has been something that people talk a lot about. What is in the budget for that, and is that capital or is that ongoing? Where's that money going?
So as you know, we are getting ready to have, I'm not sure you're aware of that, but we are getting ready to have a forum
Yes, all that.
on school safety. And I'll let Dr. Spence answer as far as budget.
Dr. Spence, we're glad to have you over here.
Thank you, Mayor Sessoms. Just real quickly, specific to the budget, we've invested about $4 million in security infrastructure in our schools over the last several years. That's cameras, entry systems, Raptor visitor management system. We have an ongoing investment in personnel. You know that we have a school resource program that's supported by the city, but we also have security assistants in each of our elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools, so that's an ongoing personnel cost. I think the rough cost on that is $1.8 million. That's in the operating budget. That's not an addition to. We don't have a large addition to the security budget for this school year. There are a few dollars in there to continue the expansion of the equipment itself. But the Blue Ribbon panel that the chairwoman mentioned, really the purpose of that is to figure out what else we might need.
But then that might be in your next year's budget.
It's entirely possible that we might
Okay.
come to council or we might
Right.
deal with the school board and try to figure that
Thank you.
out. Or the state, quite frankly.
Great. Barbara Henley.
More of a comment or observation, I guess, than a question, but looking at the CIP funding sources and all those zeros next to state construction grants and lottery funds, no state construction grant money anymore for state
No, that,
funds for some
unfortunately,
time?
that money's gone.
And the lottery funds is in the operating budget, not the CIP? Is that why there's zeros here?
That's correct. So those lottery funds that used to be for, specifically for state construction disappeared. That money is slowly coming back to the divisions in terms of dollars, but it's been allocated as general operating dollars with no specific line item attachments.
Other questions or comments? Rosemary?
It was really great to be in the Old Donation School. I think that is the most beautiful school I have ever seen. It's absolutely stunning, and of course, the people inside were pretty special too. I just want to say, as a former kindergarten teacher like Beverly, how excited I am about the full-day kindergarten being expanded. I wasn't quite sure we needed full day until y'all really sat down with me, and I got to really hear why it was so important, but it truly is, and it definitely was past its time, and I'm really excited to support this.
Yes, John?
I have two questions. Do we have any students in their special needs in residential facilities?
We do. I don't know the exact number, but we do pay for a few students in residential facilities, and then we pay for a number of students who are in a full-day program that's not residential, but for example, Chesapeake Bay Academy locally.
If I could get that later, that would be great. And do we know what, feedback from TC, what percentage of our high school graduates, when they go to TCC, don't pass the math and English competency test and have to retake remedial courses?
So it's a little, there's a little change that's happening with TCC regards to that. They're eliminating that particular placement program, and they're going to do what they call concurrent remediation. So they're going to have students placed into the first year of the writing or the math courses, and then they're going to go concurrent remediation versus sticking them in a remediation class. So that number is going to be in flux as they figure out what that new system looks like.
But do we know what it has been historically?
I could go back and get it for you. I'm not sure what those numbers are.
Would be great. And I looked at the capital improvement program, and this is the same thing with our road program, and it is, can't meet the thing, but I do not believe, and I mentioned this to a school board member, I think, which I mentioned to you, is I don't know how you're gonna get there without a referendum, and I don't know how it fits in unless we modify our debt policy, unless something gives on the city side. I don't know where that capacity for borrowing comes from, so at some point in time, rather than having that United Nations meeting that we have over there that's not very helpful, we need a more constructive meeting where we actually talk versus just consume information about what is that way ahead strategy between the city's borrowing needs and the school's borrowing needs. And somebody's gonna have to take some risk somewhere to make all that happen within our borrowing capacity and our bond rating. And I don't know what that right balance is, but it's probably something different than we have today.
I agree. Other questions or comments? I would just follow up on what John Moss just said. There's nothing wrong with responsible debt, and we do need to look at that in the future, and I applaud what you just said. As I conclude, I want to sit back and thank you, Aaron, and the entire school board. You all have just done a great job. These schools are something that every citizen is proud of, and we know you have a lot of people working every day diligently in those schools doing great work. So we thank you. I'm also proud of this council. Over the years, we've increased local funding when other areas have not done that, and I think that's a part of the reason for the success. But thank you all very much for coming over today.
Thank you.
All right.
Echo our appreciation for council doing that every time. You all have stepped up when a lot of localities weren't able to do that, so we're very appreciative.
Thank you very much. Council, I'm going to digress from the agenda for just a moment, if I may. Two things. The process for selecting the new mayor, I'm going to ask Mark Stiles to make I'm going to have three things. Mark, you want to give some guidance there, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Pursuant to the city's charter, specifically section 3.03, if a vacancy occurs in the office of mayor, the council shall by majority vote of the remaining members select one of its members to be mayor until the successor is elected or qualified in accordance with general law. That has to happen pursuant to the state code within 45 days of the vacancy. So within 45 days of May 1, council needs to select a member of this body to serve as the interim mayor pending a special election. The council's discussion and vote on that needs to occur in public, and the vote would need to be during the formal meeting. In addition to appointing someone to serve pending the special election, the council must, within 15 days of the vacancy, petition the circuit court for a writ of special election, and unless the council would request an earlier date, the law provides that that special election would be ordered and conducted on the date of the next general election, which would be November 6th. We would propose to place on the council's agenda for May 1 the appropriate resolution for the council's consideration. And just because I think this may come up, pursuant to section 3.02:2 of the city charter, if any council member elects to run for mayor, that council member is required by the charter to tender their resignation from council. That resignation is effective as of December 31, but it cannot be revoked once tendered. And if a council member whose term extends past December 31 resigns to run for mayor, then a special election would have to be called also to fill that position. In the interim mayor, the appointment of an interim mayor does not create a vacancy, so between now and the time of the special election, this body would consist of 10 members.
Very good. Questions or comments? Does anyone object to May 1st being your date of vote?
I think it's really important. We
Yeah.
need to make sure
That's what we're trying to,
we need to do that right away.
okay, May 1st will be the date then.
And then we'll do the vice mayor on the same day?
Well, if we need to, yes, sir.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, just
We should
making
do
sure.
we
Okay.
should do the vice mayor this.
Very good. Another issue that popped up was some information in the newspaper pertaining to the ministers not liking a letter that I sent to them. The city manager did some, and I want clarification for everybody, including the press, what the city manager did Friday that I believe we received, and then the response he got from the ministers, I believe it was yesterday or today. Please.
Yes, sir. Mayor, members of council, during last week, both the deputy city manager and myself, we took a look at the whole situation with regards to the text message referencing the 5%er. It's been a rather elongated conversation, and quite frankly, it's been difficult for both Ron and I to digest the perception with which many people viewed those texts. And so on Friday, we finalized a jointly signed letter of apology to the Virginia Beach Interdenominational Ministers Conference, by which we received a letter of concern from them, and Dr. Allen, Assistant Pastor Allen, had signed that on behalf of the ministers. I completed that. Ron and I both signed it Friday evening, and shortly thereafter, I emailed all of you a copy of that, so that you all should have seen a copy of that and understand the conditions by which we took a look at this situation. And we certainly we understand that sometimes it is the appearance rather than the reality of a situation that speaks the loudest. And so we apologize. And we go on throughout our letter to talk about both Ron's and my personal personalities and our roles as leaders here in Virginia Beach, that we do not tolerate racial prejudice, and that we have never been accused of such. For this text message to have been interpreted in that way is counter to our professional, our social, and our religious beliefs. And we are observing the conditions by which that term was used and interpreted are spelled out in the letter of apology. And we once again in the letter apologized for any discomfort that our text words might have caused the members of the VBMIC or anyone else who felt similarly hurt. The letter goes on to explain our use of cameras and surveillance to ensure public safety of both the applicants for any kind of unique gathering or any large-scale gathering, but also to assure that we have a full understanding of the threats to our businesses and our citizens that are out there from not so well-intentioned individuals. It is a public safety multiplier, and we have a huge investment in that, and we continue to use that. And we wanted to make sure that everybody understood that there was no uniqueness about us ensuring that that Freedom March of 2017 went off without any violence or disruption, to which I'm pleased to say that it went well. And so we felt it was important to put this behind us. We concluded our letter to the ministers offering and welcoming an opportunity to talk about how we can best move forward from this regrettable circumstances, and that we would be happy to attend one of their board meetings so that they can get to know both Ron and I better. And so we received notification Monday morning that they have received that. I spoke with Mr. Bruce Smith on Monday and asked him to intercede because Bruce, at the mayor's request, joined us here in City Hall as soon as that was released so that we could explain circumstances and the fact that there were no racial intent at all in our use of this term. And I asked Bruce, because he and I we've come to an agreement or to an acceptance of our apology directly to him, to work with the ministers to set up a meeting. And I received another call back from Bruce today that the ministers and Ron and I will be getting together, and we'll be able to discuss that. And they'd like to wait till after College Beach weekend because we have a large participation, and have encouraged them to be with us out there during College Beach weekend so that they can further help us understand all that's going on out there and be contributors to solutions going forward. Mayor, I appreciate the opportunity. I will pass around the transmissions of receipt of letters, and if there's any council members that would like a full copy of this, I'd be happy to provide that to them.
Thank you, Dave. One other thing, Mrs. Henley wanted us to bring up the topic of compression.
Right, before we got to the other things, since this is something that we have been getting material about, I just wanted to clarify, because I suspect we will be hearing a good bit about this at the public hearing, and we continue to get emails, and I read them, and each one of them has a very interesting background, and so I can appreciate the need to do an individual assessment on this. I appreciate all this background material, but in looking at the letter that you sent us, I think as I read it, that there would be 3 steps to what we would do after this. And first of all, you are appointing this pay plan work group that will bring some recommendations to be reviewed regarding vertical compression by the 30th of June.
Check.
And you believe that we have the existing amount within the budget for case-by-case analysis?
I believe there's sufficient higher lag dollars that would support that. We don't have a full firm fixed number on that. We believe that there's more monies exterior to public safety and vertical compression than there is in public safety. And we think that those rules of engagement, I use that term, which a council member suggested I use, and I believe that we can figure out ways to support a better way at dealing with compression on a case-by-case basis.
And then as a second step, then you would look at the assessment of what pay systems for public safety might be more appropriate than the current system, and that there would be some recommendation for that which would allow discussion by the 1st of October.
Yes, ma'am. As you know, public safety is paid in the same format that all employees in the city, and it's always been a guarded concern by many of us that if you bifurcate the types of pay that we have amongst the various professions that we have, it could potentially cause morale issues. I think it's time that we look at it and try to decide whether or not there's a better way.
And Then the final step would be looking at horizontal compression, and that recommendations would be received from the working group by the 1st of January of the coming year.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
those 3 steps will be what you are thinking to do at this particular point, and you believe that we have the resources within the budget to deal with these things as they come case by case.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay, just so I was reading this right, and I really appreciate all this material, and I've got a lot to do to understand all of this and how it all works, but I'm sure you'll be addressing all of this with us.
Okay, that good? We'll get back on schedule. I'm sorry, John.
I just want to say, I have shared with the manager that I have read his letter. I don't accept his recommendation. I think we can do more and move faster. I think case by case undermines credibility. I think we need to have and know what the standard is up front, and everybody needs to know the transparency of that. But we'll have plenty of time to discuss that during the budget.
Very good, thank you. We'll get back on schedule here. We're going to go to libraries, and Eva Poole, we welcome you.
Hi, Eva.
Hi. Good afternoon.
Good
Mayor
afternoon.
and members of City Council, thanks for the opportunity to present the library's fiscal year budget for 19. Due to unrealized revenue in fiscal year 17, management services reduced our operating budget by $54,000. This unrealized revenue was due to a loss of meeting room reservation fees and impact of Hurricane Matthew. For 6 months, our central library was used by FEMA as the community's disaster recovery center, which prohibited our largest revenue generator, our central library, from renting out its meeting spaces to the public. We also made adjustments to the salaries and risk management accounts to reflect annual salaries and recommended adjustments. The law library's reduction is due to the completion of building revenues. Our library system continues to respond to the changing social, economic, and sometimes political impacts of living in a digital society. We continue to help residents develop new skills, communicate with others through new technologies, and help make our community a wonderful place to live. As a result, our library buildings are heavily used, and in fiscal year 17, approximately 1.7 million people visited our library system. As a result, 8 of our 10 library locations need to be refreshed with new furnishings and finishes. So thanks to management leadership team and city council members, we received a $5.8 million CIP bond package to transform our libraries into 21st century learning spaces. 4 branches will be renovated in fiscal year 18, and they are Bayside, our Central Library, Kempsville, and Princess Anne. And the remaining 4 branch libraries will be renovated in fiscal year 19, and they are Great Neck, Oceanfront, Pungo Blackwater, and Windsor Woods. As a significant number of our current staff are now retiring or thinking about retiring, other trends continue to find ways to attract and retain passionate staff focused on producing excellent customer skills. Securing sustainable funding for the operation and maintenance of our law library continues to be a concern, and continuing to find ways to modernize processes and respond to the needs of our customers through technological innovation is also an issue. Mandated by the Code of Virginia and City Administrative Directive 2.10, the library system houses the city's Records Management Office, which is responsible for the effective management of all of the city's records program. And this encompasses all city offices, the schools, and courts. This increase will help us support proper management and maintenance of official records, security, and legal disposition of records. Our library issues approximately 40,000 new library cards each year, and the demand for immediate access to digital content continues to grow, and our online registration will provide our residents with immediate, convenient access to digital resources and result in efficiencies and time savings for library staff. This is a one-time cost of $44,600 to activate, and there will be an annual subscription cost each year thereafter. Libraries would also like to convert 3 of our part-time library program specialist positions to full-time to increase programming and services for all of our residents. Our library program specialists provide an average of 20 hours of program time for a 8-week program cycle. This staff conversion would equate to about an additional 90 hours of programming offered each of the 8-week program cycle, or about an additional 45 programs. These programs would reach a minimum of 500 residents every 8 weeks and include topics that are directly aligned with the city's strategic plan, including workforce development, small business support, development workshops, early education, technology, coding, and 21st century learning competencies. This part-time staff conversion is equivalent to about 1.5 FTEs. The increases in classes and programs resulting from this conversion of part-time to full-time FTEs will make a huge difference for our customers. Recently, a mother shared on Facebook how her son began attending library programs at 6 months of age, and he still attends classes now at 8 years old, including a robotics class we held last fall. The mother inquired about Charla, her son's favorite librarian, who had moved from our children's department to our materials division about 5 years ago. And she posted this picture of her son for Charla to see how he's grown since his story time classes with her.
I'm sorry.
Is
He's in my
he?
son's class, yeah.
Awesome, great.
Sorry.
And I didn't even know that either, full disclosure. This is just one example of how our staff make connections with the community and how our classes impact citizens of all ages. As I wrap up my presentation, I'd like to share an exciting success in our work with the Virginia Beach schools and to end summer slide, the learning loss that can occur for children during summer break. Not only do the schools use our summer reading challenge for their own summer reading programs, but we partner with 11 of Virginia Beach Title I schools to bring the library and enriching activities to at-risk students in grades K through 5 in their neighborhood schools. Last summer, 71% of the 662 Title I students participating in our summer reading program either maintained or increased their developmental reading assessment score after completion of our summer reading challenge. Finally, we have been designated, once again, as one of the top-rated departments in the city of Virginia Beach, according to the recent Citizen Satisfaction Survey, ranking in second place, only behind the fire department. From many children, teens, and children who use the Virginia Beach Public Library each day and value it as a critical resource in our community, thank you for your continued support, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Jessica.
Just want to say, the Kempsville Library, I go every Sunday.
Yes.
It's fantastic. My son loves all of the toddler programs that they do, and I just thank you for everything you've done, because it is, I can understand why it's only behind the fire department.
Thank
You
you.
guys are doing awesome.
Other questions or comments? Yes, John.
Last year, there was a discussion about your trend of digital checkout versus hard copy checkout. Is that trend continued, and what was that balance this year?
Yes, it continues to increase, and I didn't bring the percentage, but I can get that to you, Councilman Moss.
I just like to contact, I know I've been in a lot of places at the Central Library for groups who sponsor things there. I say the staff is just superb on trying to help people solve their technology problems in those rooms. But that is a great community forum for the city. I mean, that is widely used by diverse groups. They do a great job there.
After Christmas, we get all the new technological toys that people don't know how to operate, and they bring them to the library for us to help them with, so. But I'll get that percentage to you.
Barbara.
I know during those tough budget years, during the recession, the libraries kept getting hit and hit and hit. Do you feel that you pretty much recovered, or do you think that there are some gaps that we still need to fill?
We are on the rise, and this budget request, we get to, hopefully, if you approve it, get our part-time staff, 3 of those converted to full-time staff. So if we do it in phases, we think slowly, we can get back to where we were before the recession.
At one point, we had, I'm sure more than we have now, libraries open on Sundays and in the evenings. Are we making progress in those areas, or do we seem that there's still some need that we're not meeting?
We would need additional staff to open the libraries. 3 of them open now on Sundays, Central, Princess Anne, and Kempsville. And in order for us to open all of our 10 locations on Sundays, we would need additional staff. But we are looking at maybe changing hours where we can open later in the day to accommodate more customers and stay later in the evening. So to do that, we just really have to weigh our staffing levels in order to make that successful.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Please pass on to everyone for doing a great job, Eva.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right, let's go.
Thank you.
Great job.
Okay, we got trouble walking in now. Warren Harris, Director of Economic Development. Warren, we welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, and I want to say first I'm joined by Barb Lito, our Growth Smart coordinator, and so pleased with the work that she's doing, and
We welcome
certainly
you.
want to say, at the risk of repeating the comments made by Chief Severa about economic development, I'd like to present the economic development budget. In this year's budget, we are very fortunate to have been recognized in the city manager's budget to look at a significant increase toward our initiative regarding the bioscience initiative and some work that we're looking to do to elevate our work in the cyber security area and some modifications to space in our suite. Taiwan Community College is going to vacate that space, and we're going to return that back into our inventory to offer some additional space for demands that come our way for city services and departments. The other is a recognition that, once again, in commenting about Barb Lito and the work that we're doing in the Growth Smart area, converting a contract position into a full-time position to support many of the new initiatives that are coming forward with the work there. Getting right into some of the meat of what we're seeing as trends, if you will, and issues. Quite frankly, we are really pleased by the work and the momentum that's been created in regards to our bioscience and healthcare initiative. As we have, as the mayor announced this past month, we're at a point now. Not only have we, through your vision, been able to assign a significant amount of land to designate as a biopark, have the first developer prepared to develop the first facility in the park, a 60,000 square foot facility. We're in the due diligence phase of that, but that's going to allow us now to transition from the work of identifying opportunities for the bioscience research and actually now being able to house them in an accelerator that will be operated on our behalf to support some of that those outcomes. We're also very interested and fortunate to understand that cybersecurity is becoming more and more of an important issue, and that we have certainly adopted that industry as a target sector initiative, and funding support that is ongoing with the support in this year's proposed budget. No doubt everyone has heard and been aware of the impact or the potential impact we have with the arrival of the subsea cables and the recent announcements that we've had as a result of that with data centers and data analytical companies and other new technology, digital technologies like cyber, or I should say digital currency, that has come our way as a result of that opportunity and the proximity to be adjacent to that. We certainly see the importance to continue to invest and trends for us to put in the necessary infrastructure to put us certainly in a position to be the recipient of what of course we see as a major benefit that's going to accrue in our direction as a result of those investments. Product, this is an issue that's not only throughout the Commonwealth, the region. It's been documented within the state's chamber blueprint for 2025 with regard to putting Virginia, and specifically in this case, of course, Virginia Beach, in a position for a new capital investment and job opportunities. we need to continue to keep our eye on the ball in terms of making sure that we have a healthy inventory, if you will, of sites and buildings. Oftentimes, we are dealing with situations where time is truly not a cliche, but it's real that time is money, and we have to be in a position and to capture some of these opportunities that are out in the opportunities for us to capture some of these investment that we're working with. And if you do not have that product or have that inventory, they're certainly going to go to the next community or the next state in some cases. We've been very fortunate in working with the Process Improvement Committee to recognize some deficiencies and opportunities to upgrade our outreach, if you will, with regard to small business, made some significant modifications with our website, our small business portal, recognizing that the small business and the diversity and that diversity strategy is so important. We are a community of small businesses, we all recognize, and we are working with other unique opportunities with existing agencies to help us support expanding the growth of small business with our own small business series. We're actually coming up on our 3rd anniversary of our 1 Million Cups initiative. That was a funding opportunity through the Kauffman Foundation, where we're created a Shark Tank type environment where companies have gone and had the opportunity to present their small business ideas and get critiqued on ways in which to grow and expand that. We've actually also had a chance to really engage our public higher education system. A lot of research is being conducted, but we're finding that it's not research. That is what's referred to as translational. In other words, looking at it as a way in which to create business and industry. And so a lot of what has come out of our innovation challenge, quite frankly, with the Bioscience Initiative, has really engaged and put us in a position to have that discussion with the university systems about how they can translate that research that sometimes in some ways end up on a shelf and actually can actually become an actual business opportunities. In that relationship to product, of course, we've all watched and seen how Town Center as a project, public-private partnership, and more recently as Block 2 is beginning to take shape. Some of that you see there will start coming online probably mid-July, end of July, in terms of that product coming on board. Very excited opportunity there to see a new diverse mix of retail, residential, and the Ziders American Dream Theater with an expansion of our entertainment complement to Town Center. I mentioned the subsea cables. Our conversations and our work in this area certainly has recognized the fact that there are going to be additional subsea cables coming to the shore of Virginia Beach. We've been very fortunate with the Maria cable and now the Brusa cable, certainly looking at the current landing station there at Croatan, the potential to offer an additional landing station potentially in the Sandbridge area. But there's no question that the industry has discovered that Virginia Beach creates a great opportunity not only for their business plan for redundancy, but for the growth and expansion of data push through that's necessary for the consumers that are requiring this data to look at Virginia Beach and the expansion and growth of additional cables. We are and have been very successful, well documented our APZ1 program, model program throughout the country, being adopted by other communities. We are and have had opportunities where some projects are coming as a result of that strategy. We're a little concerned about potential incentive dollars to continue that program, but we certainly see the growth and expansion of the work that we've done there to make sure that we're reducing non-conforming uses around NAS Oceana and replacing that with conforming uses. If you look at economic development today, there's no doubt that workforce development has risen to the top of the agenda. No discount to price, cost, tax structure, and that sort of thing. But if you cannot, and we've seen many of the projects that we're working on, the HR director is a part of that investigation team up front, where they are assigning and looking at our environment as to whether or not the workforce is certainly there and the skill sets are there. And so we have been very fortunate. We've recognized that workforce development is a key piece. The mayor this morning just hosted a meeting with our manufacturers this morning. They have recognized that workforce development is key. We are making some great strides working with our public school system, working with higher ed, working with the industry itself to better prepare our workforce for the future, for not only in the case of this morning manufacturing jobs, but for jobs opportunities as a whole. No doubt, we've been very fortunate with our strategic Mid-Atlantic location here to be and have a coastal location with the Port of Virginia, to recognize that we work in a global environment, and so the economic development game has not changed. It's actually increased in terms of understanding that our work is not only domestic, but also will continue to have a global impact as we continue to work and grow our economy. Diversification, no doubt, I know the council has certainly zoomed in on the importance of supporting the pillars of our economy, but not to be completely reliant on those pillars, and to look at other industry opportunities and really the tech-oriented opportunities. And in the past, we've always sort of talked about the FIRE industries. That's, finance, insurance, real estate. It's now the new term is TAMI. It's technology, it's advertising, it's media, it's innovation. And so we are certainly want to continue to position, Virginia Beach for that knowledge-based workforce that is so important to the council's strategy and so important to our community as a whole. We've seen some very good outcomes with the establishment of the Vibe District. Councilman Ern, as well as others, have sort of seen a unique opportunity of placemaking and for small businesses to look at opportunities in a unique environment to grow and expand. And that's certainly seen some additional trends that will come our way from that designation of that sub community and that market there in the beach. Grow Smart, again, is a significant part of our workforce development program. It was and has been a coup in terms of a strategic alignment to place this initiative within economic development, to recognize that our workforce really starts at a very early age. As a result, we've been recognized for not only the work that we've done, but just recently we were selected as one of 16 Lena Start communities. This is an initiative where we're looking at and we're seeing some positive outcomes where we're beginning to have parents and families read to their children at a very early age and preparing them so when they do arrive at the kindergarten age or in the first grade, they do come ready and have a higher level of proficiency with regard to reading and their ability to comprehend. The others, of course, recognizing that child care centers are business as well as educational facilities, but to also make sure we put them in a position to understand how to better operate their business in order to better educate our young people. And we've been very fortunate that a number of volunteers have gravitated to our strategy around the Grow Smart program and have seen a value add, if you will, to our program in terms of their volunteer service to the program. So finally, just in terms of our major budget changes, once again, what you see there is a primary address to our funding address of our biomedical initiative. We're ready to move into the next phase of going into an actual building, looking at funding initiatives within our cyber security initiative, and finally looking at modifying some existing space within our office to bring it back into the fold of the city. And lastly, with regard to Grow Smart, looking at transitioning from a contract worker into a full-time FTE. With that, Mr. Mayor, members of council are ready to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Warren. Questions or comments to Warren? Keep on, excuse me, Barbara?
Well, I just cannot be complimentary enough at the way this department reacted to something that was kind of a surprise to them, I think, when the mayor said we want to do biomedical. And for you all to get up to speed so quickly and to be at this level of progress in, 4 years, 3 years?
I think so, yeah.
Is really amazing.
Well, we
And
appreciate
I
that.
think you all have done a great job. And it's going to be in the Princess Anne District. I
I knew that's why it wasn't about the mayor, it was about
And we
Princess
still
Anne.
need you to have a little bit of patience. I mean, this is a marathon.
Bayside.
This is a marathon that we're in, and we're going to be very successful. We're not going to be at the level of Boston yet, but we're going to make a significant impact to our economy with this strategy. So we really appreciate your.
Cybersecurity, and now with these oceanic
Yeah.
cables and having to come up to speed on these new things, really doesn't cease to amaze me. But did I hear you say something about some concern about the incentive funding in the APZ1?
Yeah, we did not get additional funding in this year's budget. There is funding there, but it's always afloat. You never know because projects come and go, and you cannot necessarily anticipate, the volume of activity that you'll get there. It'll just something that we need to make sure we monitor and watch over time, because if we're fortunate, and I know we will be, we're going to have to address some additional incentive funding in the APZ1 program.
And that's all local money, we're not
That's
getting
now
any
all
state
local. Yes, ma'am.
To maybe get some of that state money
Unfortunately
back
not.
instead of having it back to them.
That's correct. It's all local now. Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions or comments? Warren, I want to sincerely thank you for the great job you've been doing, and I echo what's going on in the biosciences is just spectacular. And I'll keep calling you.
I know you will. I know
Make
your
sure
number.
we're closing
Thank
those
you, sir.
deals,
Yes,
okay?
sir. All right, you bet.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Convention and Visitors Bureau, Brad. Brad, we welcome you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, city manager. It's always a pleasure to be here in front of you talking about one of my favorite subjects, and that's tourism. Been asked to be brief today, so I'm going to really just hit the highlights as I go through our proposed budget for FY19. Our budget here on this slide shows the three funds that fund our operation: the general fund, the TAP fund, and the TIP fund. Our proposed budget for FY19 is $27.7 million. And this is to fund our program activities for the Convention and Visitors Bureau, the Convention Center, our Visitor Information Centers, as well as our Resort Management and Special Events Office. This represents about a 2.3% increase over last year. The majority of that increase is coming from a projected increase in the TAP fund of about $520,000, and then an increase in some visitor center revenue for about $140,000 on the general fund side. This slide shows the same bottom line, but just kind of breaks down our operating units, individual budgets from our operating units. And what I'd like to do is just kind of focus your attention to the top line, which is the biggest, the difference in our budget for our marketing, public relations, and communications unit. Shows an increase a little over $960,000. This really reflects our continued effort to try to grow our advertising and promotion investment in order to build more awareness of our destination and to drive more visitation for the economic benefit that tourism brings to our community. Much of this increase is coming from the redistribution of internal funds. We really have made this as a priority over the last couple of years. And then some of the other changes to the other budget units really is just kind of a variety of budget adjustments, everything from staff transfers from one unit to another, transfer of some funded initiatives from one unit to another, and then also, most importantly, tighter controls on what we're doing and really looking at how we're projecting our spending, enabling us to move more of our budget dollars to our advertising and promotion efforts. And speaking of one of our primary issues about investing more of our budget in advertising and promotion, which is really critical to our mission. In the past year or so, we've really have rounded out our restructuring of our marketing communications department. We have brought more capacity to inside of our operation. Therefore, we've been able to reduce the expenses on outside agencies to the tune of over $750,000 in the last year. And as stated a moment ago, we're reinvesting this into our advertising and promotion efforts. And you see that on the right side of the screen there. We have seen a continued progression over the last several budget cycles of being able to move our advertising and promotion budget items upward to give us more opportunity to promote Virginia Beach on a more year-round basis, to have more reach and frequency in our core markets, and hopefully eventually be able to get into some new markets as well. One of other trends that we're talking a lot about is the continued growth of the sports tourism industry. It's a hot industry, a $10 billion a year industry that continues to grow. And we feel that we have opportunity to grow that further here in Virginia Beach. And so the Sports Center project is really exciting to us. It's really going to help us become more competitive in the sports tourism area. And it's also going to help us drive more of our tourism volume in the off-season, the non-summer months, because the majority of the tournaments that we are working on bringing to Virginia Beach, they don't meet in the summertime. They meet in the shoulder seasons and off-season. And we're really excited about that opportunity. our preliminary numbers that we're working on right now, and it's continuing to evolve. We'll be looking at really hosting over 60 events per year in this facility, generating over 155,000 incremental new room nights to the market, and generating about $4.6 million in local taxes annually as we move this project forward. And as I said, I was going to be brief, and I'd love to answer any questions you might have.
John?
Mayor, I'd be remiss if I didn't really call anybody's attention to, Brad already showed it, but the graph before the media buy. I mean, Rosemary and I sit on the Advertising Advisory Committee, and for many, many years, we've been asking for additional resources with the recognition that our competitors are spending more, and for us just to compete, that we needed to be out there. And Brad's done a really nice job in terms of restructuring that department in order to have some really meaningful increase in dollars without actually changing the expense on his department.
Well,
He needs to be commended for that.
I do commend you, but at the same time, I see Charlotte and Myrtle Beach prime time. You know, this is competitive stuff we're in today.
Very much so.
And, you know, I just, you know, we have been so blessed over the years to do very well with this. But, you know, we got to stay on top of it. And Brad, you're the right person to make sure we do. And
I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Good recognition on the money being there, but there's a whole lot of competition money out there too, and we cannot forget that. Thank you, sir.
If I might make one comment, I'd like to thank the council for their ability to allow us to fast-track this sports center. This is a huge win, and we're going big, and we're pursuing the right approach in the right location.
I just wish we could vote on it today.
Me too.
I really do. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brad.
Agriculture, Dave Trimmer, we got him. We're going to dump. He's going to be.
I'm going to back-to-back him.
Yeah, got it.
Yes, sir.
You can do it all in one.
Dave, we're glad to have you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes,
Hope
sir.
everybody's doing well today.
We're doing great.
I'd like to say hello, and I brought a few of the staff with me today, Jenny, Julia, and Jody.
We welcome
And,
everyone. Glad to have you.
Mr. Mayor, I know you're pressed for time, and the council's pressed for time. I'm Dave Trimmer, Director of Agriculture. In my opinion, you guys know the numbers. There's been some changes, some movement with Mr. Hanson and Mrs. Henley working together along with the Ag Advisory. I was not going to go through the numbers. We were good as an operating division with the revenue and with the expenses moving forward. If you guys are okay with that, we'll just move on to trends and issues.
Please.
Thank you, sir. Boom. My $128 million is now $130 million. We adjusted it this week based on extension's feedback. I'm going to say the farmers market and the high profile of events, 500,000 estimated annual impact, or annual attendance to 100 plus events. We've already had 2 theme events this year, one in March, one in April, very well attended. We had our 42nd birthday party at the farmers market on Saturday. It was an excellent deal. We're going to have an ag ARP presentation later, but I'll just show that 1995, 9,722 acres enrolled. Farmland preservation, Jenny's going to cover all that in Julia. 405 acres, as we know, went in last year in 2017, 41 development rights. So far through VDAX, we've have $1.4 million in reimbursement. And obviously, I like to talk about volunteers. That's a lot of how we get stuff done. 1,152 volunteers, almost 34,000 hours, $817,000. It's equivalent to 16.298 FTEs. A lot of that is at the market. A lot of that is at the bank on. A lot of that is in my 4-H. A lot of that is Master Gardener program. All done by volunteers. Move, please. Thank you. 35th year of the Pungo Strawberry Festival. All our tours are doing really well. Our K through 5, our estimated 2,400 kids coming through. Right, I think we had 70 some yesterday, 78 actually come through yesterday from one of the elementary schools. Very growing business segment for us. Please proceed. Why Not Wednesdays in its 10th year. Libraries is in the 5th year. We're doing Kempsville Central and Bayside. Friday night hoedowns have already started. The themed events, we have 8 major themed events, as you're well aware of, and agritourism is a huge plus for us at the market. We continue to promote 4-H. We have 13 clubs, 363 active volunteers. We have the last week of Memorial Day weekend, the 31st, actually, and June 1st is a show and sale event down the southern part of the city. We raised $183,000 last year for 4-H. I expect similar numbers this year. As we continue to support, we have the Buy Fresh, Buy Local, Virginia Dare Soil and Water Conservation, Pungo Strawberry Festival. This year, as you all know, I was awarded the Excellence in Agriculture Award, and it's been going on since 1966.
And we congratulate you for that.
Yep, it was very nice. Thank you. Continued growth to support the growth and sustainability of agriculture. It's all about how our businesses do. I can touch on a few things. U.S. is number one in beef production in the world. 20% of the beef production comes from the U.S. We have a little bit here, but as a global perspective, there are 4 major players in that industry. 2 of them, one of them right now is foreign-owned. That's JBS out of Brazil. There's going to be another one here because National is going to sell to a Brazilian company. It just shows you the emphasis on foreign countries are taking and investing in our country to get into the supply business, both in the meat side, protein side, and also probably in the future in the crop side. Very growing segment. To give you guys an example, I'm a big numbers guy. 2012 to 2017, our commodity prices on corn, wheat, and soybean are down 34%. Okay, 34%. We are up 23% in yields, though. So we are producing more off our land. We always control our input costs, and our commodity prices are down. But we're still going at it hard, and we're very optimistic, and we're hoping the markets keep. And if you look at the experts and what the experts say is keep producing, because the demand for protein in our crops is going to continue to grow, all in that Asian market, the Southeast Asia, Pacific Rim. That's where the future is. You guys watched the Winter Olympics. Out of the 7.5 billion, 7.1 billion people we have in the world, 4.1 marched under the Chinese flag, as it was noted in theirs. A lot of the population growth will be in that quarter, so exports is vital to us. The Panama Canal's in place, our deep water port, and we have 2 major granaries here in Virginia Beach, which is extremely important to us, which is a lot of where our crops move through. Anybody wants to hear this again tomorrow in detail, I'm presenting to the DLM. There'll be a real snoozer probably tomorrow for them, but hey, I'm going to do my best. The only thing I asked for this time was farmers market. We have 2 full-time, 1 part-time when we started, when I got here in 2008, and I've asked for one of my part-time people to be moved to full-time. To give you an example of why, the revenue budgeted in 2008 was $103,000. The revenue budgeted today is almost $232,000. We will break that record. The expenses back then were $221,975 in the budget, and today's expenses are $221,921. They've gone down by $54. So that shows you we've stayed stagnant on the expense side, controlling our expenses. Revenues is more than doubled, and we continue to work hard to do that. Over the last 5 years, the farmers market's brought you $1 million in tax revenue, and that's the dollars coming through the market. That has nothing to do with what's going through the Commissioner of Revenue side on the taxes. We continue. Back then, 2009, we brought $32,851 in tax revenue to the general fund. Today, that's gone up 30% from where it was back then, and from 2008 to currently. So with that, I'll take any questions, and we can roll to the next part. And I appreciate everybody's support.
Questions to that? We'll move forward then, Dave. Go right ahead.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to open this one up, and I've brought my team along. I just wanted to touch on a couple things. First of all, since I've been here since 2008, 2009, we never had an audit of the ARP program. This last winter, thanks to Lyndon and Chris Ford, Chris did an excellent job. I'm sure you guys have all looked at it. Some of you are on the committee. We had an actual audit of the ARP program, and I'm not going to read to you. I know you guys don't like to be read to, but they were very complimentary of the staff of Julia and Jenny for helping them out. It was considered. And obviously finance, I think Patty's out there, and there's others. The tax assessor's office played a key role, planning played a key role, all the attorneys, because this is a big program. And the process controls in place to compliance as well designed and reduce risk and are operating as designed. The finance department maintained accurate financial records of all ARP transactions, balances, and accounts. The acknowledgements was talking about my staff. They were all open suggestions, very accommodating, and worked promptly, professionally with us throughout the audit. So I just wanted you guys to know the positive thoughts there, and I know you guys have all read this. With that, I will turn it over to my team. I'm going to introduce Jenny McPherson first, and she will lead you in this process. For my part, I appreciate all you guys do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deidre, and we welcome you.
All right, good afternoon. We just want to take a few minutes to give you a briefing about the Agriculture Reserve Program that was discussed. And Jody's going to pull up our slides for us. Just to get things started, agriculture is definitely a passion of all of ours on the department, but for me also personally, I'm married to a full-time farmer in the city of Chesapeake and a partner in the family business, so agriculture is near and dear to my heart, and I'm glad it is to all of y'all's as well. As David mentioned, we have about $130 million impact to our local economy here, so we're in the top 3 industries, for the city. Years ago, we had to start with a community group, and it involved some of you guys also on city council. But folks were recognizing the importance of our industry, and we wanted to make sure we could preserve it for future generations, because we do have a rich rural heritage there in our southern end of the city. So our opening slide was a thing of strawberries there that's protected. But just to let you know, the program was established back in May of '95. It did take about a year to get the funding ordinances and things like that done, and we did our first closing in 1997. So our slide here shows our cumulative acres that we've done over the years. Those first couple of years, we did leaps and bounds as we got started, but we averaged just around like 460 plus acres per year over our 21-year history. And special thanks to City Council for dedicating, doing a dedicated funding source for us for funding. That has been a saving grace that, would like to be modeled by other localities around the state, but unfortunately they haven't been able to do it, but you all have. So that's been a true testament to your support of the program. And with the innovative financing tool that we use with the installment purchase agreement, we're able to leverage our funds over our 25-year payment plan. So we buy treasury strips to do our initial outlay, and with that treasury strip, it'll mature in 25 years for the purchase price of the easement. So with that, we can do more closings per year compared to doing cash closings. So we can go on to the next slide. This was a map that was also in our fiscal year report that y'all received earlier in the fall. So for fiscal year 2017, we actually closed on over 405 acres this year, and those are indicated in the purple. So hopefully that can show up fairly well for you. But that represents 6 properties of different areas of the city. So, and with those, it was a unique mix because we had several that were open cropland. We had some that involved, some forest land and pasture, et cetera. So with the cost of those, we were able to acquire 41 development rights with the easement purchase price over $3.72 million. But with those treasury strips, we just had to do an initial outlay of $1.89 million, which was good. So average of 51 cents on the dollar. We can do our next slide there. This just shows you a graph of our interest rate trends. It's what's been tied to those treasury strips that we've purchased over the years. As we know, our interest rates that we see are much different than we did 20 years ago. So when we started the program back in '97 with those first closings, they were seeing interest in the 6 to 7% range. Our highest one was actually 7.33%. Our lowest one was in September of 2016, and it was at 2.69%. So we can see where interest rates have gone over the years. And just to give you an idea, yesterday's interest rate market was 3.18%. So that just kind of gives you an idea of some of our closings that we've had over the years. And I'm going to turn it over to Julia. She's going to talk about some of the ones that are currently under offer that you guys have some seen in closed session and give you an idea where we are today. So thank you.
Thank you very much. We welcome you.
Thanks. So our current program status, in terms of percentage of acres, commodity crops makes up about 60% with over 5,800 acres. Timber is next with 31% at about 2,900 acres. And specialty crops are high-value crops, fruits, vegetables, cut flowers, Christmas trees, that sort of thing, makes about 6%. And then we have about 3% of the program in pasture and hay currently. So these are accepted offers. You all have seen these in closed session. I'm pleased to announce we're advertising for number 258 and 259 starting this weekend, and we hope to close on those before the end of the fiscal year. That combined purchase price will be just over $936,000, but our actual capital outlay will be $424,000. So that gives you an idea of how much money we're talking about. Yesterday's close would be about 45 cents on the dollar for processing those. If all 5 of these go to close by the end of the year, we will hit our 10,000 acre milestone, which is a pretty big deal, and I think that's worth celebrating. Okay, so these are additional applications that we have in various stages of play. You see 12 listed there. We received another one on Friday for about 154 acres on Pleasant Ridge Road. So these would total an additional 1,051 acres for your consideration coming up in the future. So that means we may have to go to our ranking system, and since we will have some limited funds. In terms of impacts to the program, we've acquired 858 development rights so far, eliminating about a 37% increase in development. From 99 to the present, we've averaged about 29.5 homes per year in the southern portion of the city. The last 5 years, that's been reduced to 17.8 homes per year. Obviously, the program eliminates impervious surfaces, which is an improvement to stormwater and a protection of water quality. As always, we would invite you all to do a ride-along, meet some of our participants, learn more about the program, hear their stories, and just get to know more of our program. If I can answer any questions at this time, or Jenny can, we'd be happy to try to do so.
Thank you very much for your presentation to the whole team. We appreciate it. Questions or comments? Barbara?
Well, just to address the budget situation, of course, I think presented this last week, was it?
Yes.
I really appreciate the work with the staff and with all the community in making certain that the Agricultural Reserve Program continues. As I think Jenny mentioned, the thing that has really made our program successful is the dedicated funding source. Way back when we were examining all of these programs around the country, we found a lot of really nice programs, but they hadn't preserved any land because they didn't have the funding source. And so that's really been very important to us. In order to be able to keep the program and also to provide some funding for stormwater issues, the staff recommended what they had addressed as the second scenario of a possible solution, and this was accepted by the Ag Advisory Commission and the Farm Bureau, and I think it's a great solution. We would retain the 0.9 cent dedicated funding source and continue to have as the goal or the average enrollment of 300 acres per year into the program. And the requirements for that, plus to continue to pay back what is already in the program at the 0.9 cents projected over the future, would have an excess of about $990,000 a year each year, which we would then dedicate for the use of the CIP project, Southern Canal Lead Ditch Stormwater, which serves the rural area. It's really the only CIP program we have, but in addition to what was already in the CIP of $400,000 a year, this would bring it to about $1.4 million, which would allow us to do some meaningful programs in that area to address stormwater, and I think it's a real win-win. Plus, there would be a one-time transfer of $1.5 million from the fund balance of the program to the Asheville Park CIP. And so this we will hope will be in the budget, and I think will be a great win-win for all of us in the rural South.
Sounds great. We appreciate that win-win. We like those. Any other questions or comments?
Thank you all, sir.
Our friends over in agriculture.
There you go. Great day. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Julia?
David, how much time are we
We're
going to
on
need?
perfect time.
Okay,
I just
good.
did an assessment. We are gonna top right out at
I'm fine.
1,800 hours tonight.
Does that mean 6 o'clock?
That would be 6 o'clock, sir. So we got Patty coming in. Patty, so Mayor and members of council, Patty's gonna do back-to-back. I think it's important as part of your budget review that you get a briefing on debt service update, and then she'll follow that up with our monthly interim financials.
Very good. Patty, we always welcome you and your team.
Well, good afternoon, Mayor, members of council. I wanted to recognize, I've got a whole cast of people in here who support debt service and the interim financials. Kevin Kilbasa, main accountant on preparing the interim financials. Don Barnett, the controller. Stacy Hirschberger, put together the debt service, as did Andrew Oliver, our debt administrator. So it takes a lot of things to keep up. We also keep up with the ARP program. This slide, I'm not going to go into detail other than to say you've heard and been hearing a lot of briefings on the capital improvement program. And this is a summary of it. Here's the year one is 396 million, almost 397. Total over the 6-year period is $1.7 billion. Okay, and we already know that roadways, stormwater, schools make up over half of the overall program. And just to make it a little easier, this chart talks about percentages and so forth over the 6 years. So you can see that schools, roadways, stormwater get the majority of the money. But we have to pay for those
Oh, my goodness.
capital projects.
Looks good. Looks good. Excuse me, Patty. That looks
That's a
good.
Kodak moment.
All right.
It's a good baby.
Yeah, they usually cry when I hold them.
Upstage, Patty.
Yeah, that's okay. We have to pay for thank you, Dave. We have to pay for the program, and we do it in a couple ways. We do it with cash, either from fund balance or operations, or we issue bonds. When we issue bonds for especially expensive projects, we have to pay it back. And that's what debt service is, and that's what we're going to talk about here. Just to kind of over the 6 years, to see that 57% of general government capital program is debt. Stormwater is only 25%, but stormwater is 62%. So 187 million in debt to be issued just for stormwater in the 6-year period. I'm going to remind everybody, you've seen this slide. This is the tax-supported debt. We start with the beginning debt. We deduct retired. We add the new balances. So over the 6-year period, we're starting in FY18 at 932 million tax-supported debt and to $1.088 billion at the end of fiscal 24. Our debt per capita is well within our guidelines. But just wanted to kind of say out this number, when we issue new debt, we have to pay it back, and that is what debt service is. Don't be too concerned with this slide. I'm just showing the growth in general government tax-supported debt over the period of the CIP. It goes from 131 in the FY18, 136 in FY19, and it reaches estimated to be 161 by fiscal 2024. Of course, water and sewer and stormwater, you see how that changes from 21.3 to 37 million over that period of time. So the thing that, well, let me go back to this. We have all the funds that we charge for debt service. And we charge it based on policy decisions that council has approved, or it just, that fund is the one who's incurring that, such as water and sewer. And just kind of distribute it again, where does debt service get paid? Schools pays 26%, general fund 53.5 million or 33%. Stormwater in FY19 is just a small sliver, and the tip is 13.8%, 22 million. So the tip is absorbing a lot of the debt service on some of these projects. This is the 6-year. It doesn't change much other than stormwater is growing by a small amount on terms of debt service. I'll remind you, you have your 4 indicators: annual debt service to general government expenditures, no more than 10%. Overall net debt estimated full value, no greater than 3.5. Overall net debt per capita, greater than 3,000. And overall net debt per capita personal income, no greater than 6.5. So where do we stand over the 6-year CIP with these indicators? We know that the debt per capita, we're well within the threshold. These two, the net debt to estimated full value of taxable real property is within the threshold, as is net debt per capita personal income. However, debt service to general government expenditures bumps up to the 10% standard by 2022. And it stays there for a short period and is estimated to drop down after that, depending on what council does. This is the only one we know, right? Because that's what you're adopting. These are just estimated numbers based on whatever council does each year with the actual capital plan. Just again in chart form, the blue line starts to show the estimates, and under the net debt per capita, again, we are well within our $3,000 per capita on tax-supported debt. And, but when we come to the debt service to general government expenditures, we are bumping right up to that 10% threshold. And just to kind of wrap it up a little bit, we do have the AAA bond rating, and we don't ever take that for granted. That can change. I think it's been at least 8 consecutive years that the 3 major agencies have continued to rate us AAA with a stable outlook. And basically, AAA means you have the capacity to pay and the willingness to pay. We do issue our bonds on a reimbursement basis, and we repay debt rapidly. So you see the large amounts we paid down on that earlier chart. And that's part of that AAA. We have 45 current outstanding issues of bonds. We manage the payments. We make sure the security is met. We meet IRS guidelines and Securities and Exchange Commission guidelines, especially on continuing disclosure. A total of $1.2 billion is outstanding. 932 is tax supported. 290 water and sewer and stormwater and ARP are the other pieces. And we just reminding you, we had just done an advance refunding in December. We may not ever do another advance refunding. We will continue to look for opportunities for what they call current refundings, and there are some things we might be able to do, but that's going to be less advantageous, but we continue to look at it. So staying in communications with the agencies. For example, we had a water and sewer system surveillance call last week, where they're just asking about a lot of different things, number of sewer hookups, number of customers, how has it changed, what is your cash position, what is your liquidity, what is your coverage, all those things. And as far as we know, everything is fine. We haven't heard back. They're meeting in committee today. So
It was on your water and sewer enterprise fund?
Yes, sir.
I'm not too worried about that.
Look at the CAFR, that's a lot of money.
That's for sure.
You can make loans to people.
He just sits
they
over
should
there
be
and
fine.
smiles.
We are planning a stormwater sale for sometime in the next
He just smiles and doesn't say a word.
6 to 8 months. And we know that we will have to do a lot of preparation work for that to position the information in a way that's easily understandable by the agencies. So I went over this pretty quickly. You know, I'm into the numbers, and I tried to make it easy, but if I didn't, please ask questions.
It's very well done, John.
On slide 2, just looking at the asterisk, of the $1.48 billion previously appropriated, I know you might not have this date, how much of that is available and actually that's previously not expended and would be expended over the next 6-year CIP?
That 1.4 will, some of it is actually, debt has been issued. I think the question, we issue bonds on a reimbursement basis, so you're really asking how much has been authorized but not issued, I think.
Well, just says here, prior years, it would be true, if you've had debt, you have, obviously, this says you have 1.4